This episode of Smodcast is brought to you by the good folks at Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional-looking website, portfolio, and online store, man. For a free trial and 10% off, visit squarespace.com/Smodcast. Man, the offer code is SMOD at checkout. Better web starts with your website.
You want a podcast? I got a Smodcast. You want a podcast? I got a Smodcast. You want a podcast? I got a Smodcast. Do you want a podcast? Do you want a show? Do you get your laughs from computer radio with this bro, Scotty Mo? It's about time to lose your shit. Everybody's Parker Smith, call that legend Kevin Smith.
Welcome to Smodcast. I'm Kevin Smith. Okay, kids, today is a milestone in the life of old fat Kev Smith. 20 years ago today, this date, not while you're listening to this, 20 years ago, Clerks was released in theaters. Now, we've been celebrating Clerks' 20th anniversary all year, and frankly, I've been celebrating Clerks from fucking the moment I first thought about it, man. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people will be like, oh, fucking you still talk about Clerks. I don't give a shit. Clerks is amazing. Like, Clerks changed my life. I'll be talking about this fucking shit till I die because I'm still fucking flabbergasted by, like, you're kidding me. That black and white movie with the salsa shark? We did it? Like, that's astounding still to this very day. Opened up the whole world to me, man. It's all been fucking donuts and blowjobs ever since, except for the times, when it's not. But that's life. Anyway, much better life I'm living now than I would have ever been living had I never made Clerks. So I'm still content to talk about Clerks, and particularly here in its 20th year, man. Longevity, motherfucker. So here in the 20th year, we've already seen the movie go to Sundance back in January for its 20th anniversary. We've gone to the Toronto International Film Festival with Tusk this year. That was also the 20th anniversary of Clerks going to the Toronto Film Festival in 1994. And now here we are at the final milestone. I mean, the one that kind of matters the most is the movie comes out in movie theaters. Like, it's one thing to play at film festivals. Movie actually came out in a movie theater, something that while we were making the movie, we dreamed might happen, but never counted on. So the fact that it actually happened, Christ, one day I went and bought a ticket for Clerks at a movie theater at the fucking Angelica, where, I'd seen Richard Linklater's film Slacker. And that made me want to be a filmmaker, where I'd shown Clerks at the 1993 Independent Feature Film Marketplace, that very same Angelica, where nobody was there except me and the crew. And thank God, Bob Hawke, who later went on to tell everybody about the movie and started the ball rolling, the amazing Robert Hawke. So there I was going down the escalator to the Angelica with a ticket in hand, said Clerks. And there's a packed theater watching the movie on a Friday night in New York. Amazing. Meanwhile, out in Los Angeles, playing at the Laemmle Sunset 5, legendary indie film house, which is now, I believe, Sundance Cinema, that I went to see Clerks in over the course of an entire year. When it came out on this day 20 years ago, it stayed at the Laemmle for, I think it was like 2 weeks shy of a year or something like that. Like, it didn't play every day. They went and moved to weekends at midnight and stuff like that. But, once it started playing there, it played for almost a year, man. And I, going to California and seeing your film in like a premiere indie cinema. Oh, this is amazing. I remember everything. I can't forget it, man. And it's not a curse. It's a goddamn blessing to remember it all, because, it was just so amazing. But mercifully, I had the good sense to write some shit down sometimes. Now, in the past, I think on the Clerks 10 documentary, The Snowball Effect, I pulled from the Sundance diary. I think I've read that also on some episodes here of Smodcast, if I remember correctly. But what I found today, kids, man, to celebrate the moment that changed my life, the moment when I was like, hey, man, I think I want to make this movie called Clerks. But today, I've unearthed a journal that predates the making of Clerks. This is a journal that had me taking notes in it. It's one of these black little notebooks from Bob Adams Inc. I mean, it's over 20 years old now. On the cover, there's a black and white photo of the woods, a path heading into the woods. Very artsy and shit like that. And I remember buying this And I think it was a Barnes and Noble and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll keep a journal on the making of this movie. So I did. I wrote a bunch of shit down, man. And I wish Scott was here so we can emo Kev this, because I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of emo Kev in these words that I'll be reading to you from this Clerks journal. Portrait of an artist as a young man, ladies and gentlemen. Before there was Clerks, there was this guy, Kevin Smith. And on December 11th, 1992, my mother's birthday, as well as the midst of the nor'easter that wiped out the East Coast 20 years back, well, 22 years back at this point, coming up on where I had water in the house, Highlands was flooded. I've talked about it a bunch. Anyway, there I am by myself in this house, and I start journalizing about making Clerks, because we were supposed to start shooting Clerks in December, was it? Or right after Christmas. So January, but this flood, fuck that. So here I am like, oh, I've got this script, and oh, I've got the credit cards to do it. No, I've got the people, but we're not shooting because there's fucking water everywhere. Not a drop to drink. I'm drowning in my living room. December 11th, 1992, the prose of emo Kev. I added that. Here we go. Flood, water, powerless, phoneless, waiting. Oh, see, man, I wish Mosier was here. He'd be dying already, man. For the umpteenth time in what seems like only 2 months, a situation has presented itself that acts as a potential setback in the production of Clerks. Nature has unleashed its at times negligible might against the constant oppressor, Homo sapien, and the river water has once again breached the bulkhead, this time rising to a never-before-heard-of level. Fucking kid. I love words. Look at how many I can put together in a sentence. Why say it simply when you could say it with as much flourish as possible? This kid wasn't ready for Twitter, folks. I'll tell you that much. At 9 o'clock this morning, I stepped out of my bed and onto a rug that belched out a puddle of water, then another. And for every time I dropped my foot to the floor, there was a corresponding puddle. It's like he's just discovered the dick on his tongue and he's just jerking it. It's just masturbatory, isn't it? The water rose through the bottom of my home. And for a time, I sat on my couch watching cat food nuggets expand and sneakers float on a pool approximately a foot deep. The water outside marked far more than twain, thus submerging my two vehicle possessions, both Volkswagens, to the ceiling, inside and out. Let's step away from this gaudy prose for a moment. I had a Volkswagen Beetle and a Volkswagen Rabbit that I shared with Muse, and we were fixing one up to sell, and the other one we were using. And both of those got lost in the flood. I think I've told that story many times. FEMA gave us money for those two cars. That money helped make Clerks. Thankfully, much was saved in our house, but the second high tide is still minutes away, and it promises to be worse than the first. Excuse the unintentional rhyme. Fitting that I should choose this eve to christen the third or fourth in a series of journals I've attempted to keep on the formation of what I pray to God will become my first film, Clerks. Okay, forgive him his look at all these lofty words, but this is kind of exciting, even for me. I'm like, oh my God, this is a kid who's dreaming about Clerks. I'm a guy who dreams about Clerks in the past tense. This kid was dreaming. What could it be? What was the potential? What would it do? He had no fucking clue what was coming. None. He didn't plan for this at all and shit. So this is interesting to me. When I talk about the other journals, here, I describe it right here in the fucking prose that I'm writing in a dark house by candlelight, while water is surrounding me and I'm on a couch with my cats. I remember this fucking clear as day. It's insane. Previous journals have befallen such hideous fates as abandonment, loss, or theft in New York. I certainly hope this one fares better and stays with me right up till production and post, which I now slate as a March 13th start date. He was close. I think we actually started on, I don't think we started. Maybe it was March 13th. I gotta ask my mother. She remembers. She marked it down on a calendar and she marks it the same every year. Kevin started Clerks this day. This time out, I'll combine the ingredients of the prior tomes, books, keeping both notes on the script, the rewrites, and film / potential shots, etc. As well, yeah, as if I ever did a shot list for that movie. As well, here's the shot list. Set the camera up in front of the counter. There you go. There's my shot list. It has one entry on it. As well as the periodic update on my progress in the way of a journal entry like this. Here's today's update. All looks bleak. Great way to begin. As I look at my auto breathe its last in my driveway, I'm cheered only by the fact that I won't have to make an insurance payment next week. No car, no insurance. In a way, reverse or otherwise, it's quite freeing to lose something vital. Last month, my all-important canvas bag. This month, my car. Hopefully, unlike my obsessive compulsion to replace my bag, oh, I wanted that bag back so badly. I won't feel the bag itself, like, because it made me feel like a pro. It was a canvas script bag that they sold at like the online Warner, but it wasn't online yet. Mail-in Warner Brothers store. Before they actually opened up their stores, they had a little pamphlet and shit like that. And I had this like canvas script bag. And I remember seeing it being like, that would make me like a professional. You know, now everybody carries around man bags and stuff. But this was like, oh, look at that. It looks like it belongs in a movie set. It had WB stitched in it and whatnot. I love that bag. It made me feel like I was what I thought I wanted to be or what I became. It's always important to, surround yourself with the accoutrements of who you want to be. It's always important to remember who you are, but, surround yourself with things that inspire you to be who you want to be, even if that's a dopey fucking script bag from the proto Warner Brothers store. Hopefully, unlike my obsessive compulsion to replace my bag, I won't feel the need to do likewise with my car. Perhaps I shall adopt lengthy constitutionals as a means of getting to work. Jesus, did this kid write for Frasier? Fuck. The girl I want to marry questioned the validity of or existence of my will to be a filmmaker the other night, citing the fact that since we've known one another, I've wanted to be many things, including a writer. I pointed out that this film thing is an extension of the writing thing. Only this genre of independent filmmaking allows me to retain complete control over my work. Look at that. That was even important to me then, man. An independent filmmaker from the go, for heaven's sakes. And here was a kid who hadn't even worked in the business and had read a lot of articles and Premiere and because we didn't have the internet, kids. Any place, maybe if you ran into a copy of the Hollywood Reporter or something like that, you'd hear about writers who, lost control of their scripts. Directors took them over and turned it into something else. And, that sounded to a writer, that sounds like a horror story. That's something that's like telling a fat kid, one day you're going to get diabetes, which they did to me a lot because my father's diabetic as well. And, it's horrible. You're like, it's terrifying. There's nothing I can do about it. Really, there is. Just stop eating sugar. But as a kid, you're like, there's nothing I can do about it. So the same kind of situation here, man, like a scary story, a campfire story to a writer is, and then the studio took the script and changed it all, and so to a guy who'd never done it before, that seemed terrifying. So from the get-go, I was that dude who was just like, I got to have complete control over my work. And the girl I want to marry in this book in 1992 is Kim Loughran, my long-term high school girlfriend. We dated for like 12 years. So she apparently said, I don't know if you're really into this film thing. And I told her, no way, man. This is fucking indie film forever. Failure never. So I wrote about her. I think she bought it. God, I hope she did, because I need her support more than anything to accomplish this. She was always my biggest fan, at least thought I was funny, and she, knew I could write and encouraged me to write and stuff like that. Not a lot of encouragement where I was. I mean, look, even my parents, God love them, were never like, yeah, keep writing and shit. Like, they were like, get a job. And not that I didn't have a job, I had a job, but they were like, finish high school, maybe go to college like your brother and sister, but, and then you wind up working in a restaurant business or something like that, which is weird because our family did not work in the restaurant business, but that seemed like easy gettable jobs. Bar was always set very low in our house and stuff. So while my parents were always very supportive and loving, they were never like, you can do anything, Tiger. Not at all. In fact, most times they were just like, what did you do, Tiger? So here was somebody who was actually like, you can do this. Although at this point, she's going, I don't know if you're going to do this, man. You might just let this drop. Tonight, by lamplight, It was a lamp, like literally a kerosene lamp. I read a Times Magazine article about Quentin Tarantino, the auteur behind this year's best film, in my estimation, Reservoir Dogs. It was encouraging and eerily familiar. He did the video store thing until he hit, but it did offer some disheartening portions. While he was set to make Reservoir Dogs for $30,000 using 16 millimeter, he was 28 before he got his shot. Wow. And he wrote multiple screenplays before coming to Reservoir Dogs. And in what was the most earth-shattering quote in the piece, or anywhere else, he said, quote, "If you say I'm going to make a movie about disenfranchised youth or minimum wage kids, then it becomes obvious. To say you want to make a movie about being 29 years old and working at a minimum wage job, that's a heavy burden to start off with. That's like saying, I'm going to do an anti-war movie. Why bother? Why not just say, I don't like war, and be done with it?" So that's the quote Quentin makes. Now, this is long before I even make Clerks, man. And here he is talking in this article about, like, you know, why would you make a movie about minimum wage kids? And that's what I was dreaming about making a movie about. So I write, do you know how traumatic it is when someone whose work you eagerly admire basically says your idea is no good? This quote does what all my detractors never could. It casts a seed of doubt. I'm telling you, I believe Fraser Crane wrote this fucking journal. Is my script pointless? Would I be Shecky? I'll answer my own questions. Would I be better off with a piece that bears no resemblance to reality? Have I been barking up the wrong tree? It's interesting to note 20 years later, I start barking up the fucking unreal tree with Tusk. But back then, I wasn't a filmmaker. I didn't know how to make films. I wrote about the things that made me laugh or the things I liked or my friends, and set it in familiar places that I knew. Clerks set in a convenience store because I worked at a convenience store, and gave me access to an interesting set where everywhere you turned a camera, there was some production design going on or something interesting to look at. And then all you had to do is put some funny shit in front of that background, i.e. actors doing some things, saying some things, and you had yourself a motion picture. But, that was me in the beginning. I didn't make movies as much as I'm, just pulled, as I've said many times, fatty chunks of art, of my heart out of my chest, plopped it on some platters, projected, and said, what'd you think? So, that's why when people are like, Clerks sucks, I'd always be like, fuck you, because that was personal. That was like saying you and your friends suck and nobody fucking cares about your world and your thoughts. With Tusk, it was complete opposite. People would be like, this sucks. And I'd be like, yeah, I know, it's weird, right? But at least it's in focus. So, but back then, man, this was me. This was who I was. And here I'm reading an article about a dude whose work I love, and the dude says, why would you ever make a movie about minimum wage? Essentially, one step shy of going, why would you ever make a movie set at a convenience store? And I remember years later when I met him, I told him about that. And he was just like, oh, man, I didn't mean you. And I was like, well, of course you didn't mean me, because I wasn't even around yet. Like, I didn't even make the movie and whatnot. But he was like, oh, I'm bummed that I discouraged you. I was like, obviously you didn't discourage me, man. I got here. But like, I held on to that article for a long time. Fuck that. I'm making Clerks. Then I'll do the fanciful fluff and fantasy pieces. Yeah, which I would come to do later on in my career. All those fantasy fluffy movies that I made. This is the movie that's been germinating in me for over a year. And I'll be damned if I'm going to be put off by a throwaway quote in a little scene or appreciated article. It was in the New York Times Magazine section, so I bet you it was seen by many people, and it was certainly appreciated by me because I held on to the article for a long time. So strange, man. So very odd. My career is tied very closely to Quentin's in my eyes, because if I don't see Reservoir Dogs, and if I don't see him sitting around, his characters sitting around discussing Madonna at the top of the movie and the song Like a Virgin, having a pop culture discussion, having Tim Roth go, did you ever read did you ever read Fantastic Four? The Thing, motherfucker looks like the Thing. Like, there was somebody who was talking in a language I understood. And when I saw that movie, I said, this is allowed? You can make movie dialogue about other movies? Holy fuck. And up came the sleeves, and out came everything I've ever done since then, man. Because pop culture, cinema, this was my language. Okay, man. Back to the book. And you know what? I'm saving the article too. And when Clerks does the Angelica, I'm going to find Quentin Tarantino and I'm going to politely hand him his quote and article and thank him for the vote of confidence. Well, I didn't do that, but you could tell I obviously always had a chip on my shoulder. I mean, Quentin Tarantino wasn't even talking to me or about me or anything, but I was like, well, I'm going to find this guy and give him the article and say, thanks for the vote of confidence. I didn't do that, but I did bring the article up to him when I spoke about it. The article is somewhere here buried in the house as well. Okay. So that's the end of that entry. Written on the night that I was alone in my house at 21 Jackson Street. Everyone in Highlands had been evacuated. I stayed behind because we had cats and I didn't want them to fucking drown or be alone. I mean, there was nowhere for them to go. They couldn't walk on the floor. They had to jump from like couch to furniture. So I stayed behind, and with a kerosene lamp, that was the first thing I wrote. And so that's the ramblings of a kid at the lowest point of his fucking life, still dreaming about making his fucking statement, still dreaming about doing it, man, and not pissing on people who've done it before, using even, a bit of negativity as positivity, changing that negative ion to a positive ion, and there I was sitting there writing, going, I'm going to do this. And one day when it plays at the Angelica, and we did play at the Angelica, it's nuts. Okay. So the next page is revamp notes based on Vincent. Vincent Pereira, my friend, has been on Smodcast. He gave me notes on the 164-page draft of Clerks. He says, change the non-smoking activist transition. Veronica and the fire extinguisher is too comical. I kept that. Maybe go back to the idea that the guy's a gum company representative. I kept that as well. Eliminate Dante's impromptu dance with the customer. You dance divinely. There was a moment in the script when he got off the phone and he found out that, what was it? It was after Caitlin left. He waited on a customer and he fucking, did a fucking little dance with him. And then the dude was like, you dance divinely. Kind of, Clerks 2 wound up with a dance scene. This wasn't a dance scene. There was going to be a little shuffle. He was so happy that fucking Caitlin was going to go out with him, coming home to go out with him and not getting married or engaged anymore. But obviously I omitted that. Colder, more standoffish reconciliation between Dante and Randall. Not so pat. In that 164-page draft, they just got over it. Like, whatever. And Vincent was like, no, man. There's got to be less like fucking familial and stuff. And so, as they stand there saying goodbye to each other at the end of the night, it's conciliatory, but it's not like we're best friends forever or something like that. Have Randall turn off the camera as part of a routine, maybe prior to getting free food. Randall says, pelican flying? I think we put that in one of the longer cuts of the movie. And then he would climb up a ladder, turn off the monitor system with the camera, and then, go back down and eat free food. We used that bit later on in Zach and Miri Make a Porno, so it wasn't wasted. I wrote my idea. Jay and a few others are outside the video store. They watch as Jay A, spray paints, or B, tapes up a word balloon adjacent to the window. It reads, I eat cock. Yum. Jay knocks on the window. Fucking 22 years later from the moment I wrote that, I'm still giggling at stupid shit like that. Jay knocks on the window and Randall comes to it, thus appearing with the word balloon next to his head. They laugh. Okay, so that wasn't in the first draft. That was me taking notes going, put this in the next draft. And that wound up in the movie, as Shecky remembers. Shecky! Fucking memory laning. Here's another one. Don't make Dante so apt to laugh to loud Jay at the end. So he said, thanks, you've really helped me out here. Instead of that, it was more what it was in the movie of just like Dante listening to Jay and then coming to the realization after Jay's gone that the kid said some useful shit. And then probably one of the most important notes here, move hockey game from the street to the roof. In the first draft, hockey game was going to take place on the street in front of the store with like potato chip bags as boards and stuff like that to keep the ball in. And then I think it might have been Vincent who was just like, why don't you put it on the roof? Have you ever been up on the roof? Or no, I think Vincent was like, you can't close the street down. How are you going to close the street down? I was like, well, I mean, where could we play? And ironically enough, there were tennis courts behind us, but I wanted to keep it at quick stop. Dante couldn't leave, blah, blah, blah. So then I was like, the roof. And we never really went up on the roof until the day we were going to shoot. And that roof was really not made for playing hockey, I'll tell you that much. More fantasy than anything else. But one of the most memorable parts of the movie, people always talk about, that was a movie, play hockey on the roof. at least in Canada. 12/11/92, How I Want to Revamp. Lose Arthur. Have Dante open the store as originally planned. There was a guy that Dante was going to replace, Arthur. Lose Scruples scene, as per Walt's suggestion. A scene that I've always loved, tried to put in every movie, and still hasn't made it in 20 years, any flick I've done. Put the game on the roof. Take sunniness off the Dante J.N. scene. That must have been a big fucking note of Vincent's. He's like, why are they fucking friends all of a sudden? There's a scumbag who hangs out outside the fucking stores. He's going, think about it. Are you friends with those people who hang outside the stores? Because they were always kids leaning on the building outside Quick Stop and RST. I said, no, but I don't fight with them. He goes, exactly. And if they said something useful, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, we're the bestest of friends. That was a real sticking point with Vincent. So that went away. And lose the dirt of the little old lady. There was a little old lady that Dante would help home with her bags and stuff. And she was very salty and talked about fucking and stuff. So that scene went away. 12/16/92, Kim's suggestions. Lose the dirty old lady. See, that went away. Don't lose Scruples the cat, but that did go away. Things to do in order to prep. 12/25/92. Do this by January 15th. So on Christmas Day, 1992, I crack open the journal and write the following. 1, finish new draft. 2, print up copies. 3, have business cards made. Wow, that made me feel professional. 4, as if I don't even have a business card anymore. 4, ask for First Avenue Playhouse assistance in auditioning, which I did, and that's where we did our auditions. 5, send script to Guild for numbering. That made me feel very professional. I assumed like you always have to register your screenplay with the Writers Guild. And so, I sent it in to do that. 6, call Film Video Arts, at least to join or stop in and check memo board for DOPs and sound crew. Having gone to a Canadian film school, I referred to the DP as DOP, Director of Photography. They keep the O in there. 7, contact potential DOPs from list. So I didn't know that it was going to be Dave Klein yet. Scott was the one that sold me on Dave Klein. Scott and Dave became tight after I dropped out of film school. And he was just like, this guy's amazing. Like, let's use him. He's one of us. He's young. Like, if we hire somebody else, the dude who shot Metropolitan, Whit Stillman's film, he was listed in the back of the FVA bulletin saying like, who needs a DP? Come with my own package. So I was like, this guy shot a movie that was in theaters. Let's use him. And Scott was like, let's use Dave. He's like, he's one of us. And he won't we won't feel weird with somebody who knows more than us. We're all on the same level. Great fucking decision, man. Fantastic decision. That's why Scott Mosier is the producer, ladies and gentlemen. He's a smart guy. Speaking of which, on the first month of 93, man. So January 12th, 1993, I write, as per Scott's suggestion, we need 2 sound people, which we didn't get. We only had Scott. 1 continuity person, which we had for the first 2 days and never again. 1 grip, a floater, which was pretty much Dave was his own grip. I mean, Ed helped him in the first few weeks, but then Dave was kind of his own grip. And 1 assistant camera, and Dave was his own assistant camera. We didn't have any of those roles. Film here, develop here, sound transfer in Vancouver. We were going to ask Ricky Choi at the Vancouver Film School to do our sound transfer. Cut picture in Vancouver over the course of 2 months. Scott was going to do that on the West Coast back home. Sound mix back here on the East Coast, and negative cut back here. Call DuArt for film stock development package, or call Kodak for some stock. Then on the next page, there's a photo of my business card, the View Askew Productions business card, man, with a bunch of taglines for it. So first one is don't ask, then figure it out. Then if you have to ask, you just don't get it. Then quality cinema for over 20 minutes. I like that. Ostensibly ostentatious, ostentation in the guise of the moving image. I'm telling you, never mind Frasier. I think Niles wrote this. Ostentation in the guise of art. Ostentation masquerading as art. Ostentation masquerading as cinema. Obviously, I like that word a lot. Films with an attitude problem. That sounds like it's trying too hard, but the perfect tagline for the card came up thanks to Walt Flanagan. He created it. And I have it here circled in the book as like, here's the winner, winner, chicken dinner. We'll put anything in our mouths. Just kidding. We make films. That was my business card for a long time, 10 years of my life. Love that. Okay, so next page, man. Got a bunch of math for what things are going to cost with the processing of film. We got Duard here, black and white normal developing, 13.5 cents per foot for negative, 25 cents per foot for work print. That seemed kind of pricey and whatnot. We wound up going with this Jan film place. The other problem too with Duart was they did it every other week or something like that. It wasn't daily. Okay. Hey, look at this. March 4th, 1993. Another entry. This didn't become the journal that I dreamed, but here's another entry. I'm on a damn train again. Now this is like, let me see, 3/4/93. We're like 2 weeks away from starting shooting Clerks. I'm on a damn train again. Sometimes I think I'm the only poor bastard that will travel 400 miles to get laid. I was going to see Kim, my girlfriend. She was in college at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. But then I recall hearing on the news last night that the undersecretary for NAMBLA went all the way to the Philippines just to have some sex with a 14-year-old boy. And then I'm comforted. Well, that's fucking, I don't think anybody's ever written that sentence in the world. History of mankind. Comforted that I'm only going 400 miles for sex, and comforted that it's with a 22-year-old woman. Well, look, he's practical. That's the reason I'm going too. There's a formal, and I'm going to try to enjoy it, and the long train ride affords me the opportunity to work on my shot list, which I haven't started yet. Let me tell you, kids, he never started it. There's one entry on the shot list, shoot movie. I remember the last time I was on a train, I was taking notes for a script based on my adventures with Bry in a convenience store. Now he's gone, and the script is more about my adventures with myself than anything else. Things change. Brian Johnson and I had a falling out right before the whole Clerks thing began. And he wound up leaving Quick Stop, so he wasn't a part of the whole thing. He came in after we were all done. It was all edited and stuff like that. But yeah, he missed this whole thing. And it was so bittersweet. But Brian, of course, would become Brian Johnson, star of Comic Book Men, and everything worked out there. But there was a time when I remember making the movie. I was so blue because I was like, Johnson would love this. Oh my God, he would think this is so funny. Brian would think this is funny. We start shooting the end of this month. Almost all of the details are in place, and I'm about ready to put this thing to bed. The principles are good, the bit parts are funny, and I've demoted myself from second lead Randall to non-speaking Silent Bob. Yes, I am humble in spite of myself. Well, he ends poorly in that sentence, but think about it. Everything, the die is cast right there. I'm not Randall anymore. I'm going to be Silent Bob, and that's what I've been my whole fucking life. Most people can't even imagine me as Randall. Shit, I can't even do it anymore. But that's why Randall had all the best jokes in the script, because I thought I was going to play him. It's raining outside, and the velocity of the train is forcing the beaded raindrops on the window to swim like sperm across the pane. Please forgive him. He's fucking 22 years old. Obviously, I'm very preoccupied with sex. That's the subtext of my entire script. I hope there's never a day when I'm not preoccupied with sex. It makes me feel so young. Kids, I could have written that sentence today. I was just talking to the wife yesterday we fucked, and I was just, God damn it, man. I love fucking you because it makes me feel so fucking young. Apparently at age 22, I was also in the need to feel young. And how much younger can you fucking be when you're 22 and getting laid and shit like that? What did I want? Oh, this feels like I'm 12 again. Oh, this is a ridiculous thought. But a thought that 22 years later, I still hold, man. Jen Schwabach makes me feel very young. I'll be getting laid in approximately 7 hours. That's what the kid on the train said. Another entry. 3. Boy, it's weird, man. I know exactly what I was doing on this date 22 years ago, man. March 4th, 1993. So, oh shit, that already passed. Not the 20th anniversary of that passed. So the 22nd anniversary of that train ride at which I get laid at the end of it is coming up. Got to ask mom to mark that in the calendar. March 5th, 1993. For those who want to know what the script is about, and I mean about, not the about that explains exactly what goes on, I think I have an answer. I mean, this is a writer who assumes somebody's eventually going to see his writing. It's about sex and fear. Not the fear of sex, the act and all, this being the age of AIDS. No, two separate dynamics of sex and fear. The two most powerful impetus, or impeti, that force us into action on a daily basis. And while some may argue that fear doesn't prompt action, I believe that the act of inaction is an action in itself. Listen to this kid. Fucking circular logic of a 22-year-old. I believe that an act of inaction is an action in and of itself. How do I figure? How do I figure the fear and sex angle? Well, it's like this. You have the two characters, both reflections of me. And while I like to believe that outwardly I'm more like Randall, caustic, flip, curt, pragmatic, unruly, uncompromising, I know that inwardly I'm more like Dante, beleaguered, cautious, romantic, reactionary, sensitive obviously. And being that Dante is the focus of the script, it is in him that the film's twin themes rest. Sex. It's everywhere in the script, more than obvious. No point in looking further into it. Fear. Not nearly as easily recognizable, but everyone and in almost everything Dante encounters. The fear of saying no. Dante buckles and opens a store. The fear of the unknown. Veronica's 37 confession. The fear of perception of others. Dante realizing many others have gone before him with both Veronica and Caitlin, and how they must view him as one of an uncomfortably large club, not actually referred to in the script, but the subtext of his 37 verbal rampage, and would also be the context of chasing Amy a couple of years later. The fear of trouble. Dante's fury at almost everything Randall does in regards to customers. The fear of surprise. Caitlin's engagement, the trainer's revelation, Veronica's 37. The fear of anarchy. Everyone grabbing Gatorades. The fear of social embarrassment. Randall knocking over the casket. The fear of scandal. Caitlin and her numerous liaisons behind his back. The fear of change, Dante's inability to improve his station in life. The fear of choice, Veronica or Caitlin. The fear of complacency, Veronica as opposed to Caitlin. The fear of the inability to recapture the past, Caitlin. The fear of failure, his inability to reach for more than the convenience store. The fear of sexual inadequacy. Why would Caitlin need all those other men while dating him? And probably most ultimately, the fear of death. Dante is the victim of a senseless, random act of violence, which, as we know, didn't really happen at the end of the day. But yeah, in the first cut of the movie, Dante gets shot by a dude, robs a register. All are my fears, but not exclusively. I'm sure each of us deals with these fears sooner or later. I just happen to deal with them on a daily basis. Because that's who I am, motherfuckers. I'm Emo Kev, making movies and dealing with his inner fears. After that, folks, it gets into, there's a cast list here, contacts for everybody. I found these, two slips of paper here. Let's see what's on the back. A breakdown of the script, but on the other side, I jotted down some notes for chapter headings for Clerks before we wound up doing the big vocabulary words, which I just copied down out of a dictionary on a ride up to the city to get the credits made. We were handing it all in. I said, you know what? Instead of doing anything else, I'm just going to pick vocabulary words and throw them up there as scene changers and whatnot. But before that, I was going to do the very obvious and kind of follow Dante's Inferno, Canto 1, Canto 2. And, you know, because Dante is in hell, obviously, in Clerks. So it was going to be Canto 1. The first circle of hell, Dante, early in the morning. And the morning is spelled Mourning. The second circle of hell, a public service announcement, or of gum and lungs. So that would have been in the store. The third circle of hell, the friendly neighborhood drug dealers, Jay and Silent Bob. We know what that is. The fourth circle of hell, a public service announcement, part 2. Merchant of Cancer and an angry mob, or Shades of Tiananmen Square, or Bunch of Savages in This Town, or The Commuters. Like, these were potential chapter headings. The fifth circle of hell, a closet full of 37 skeletons. You know, thank God I moved on to what I did. Some people felt like the big vocabulary words were a little pretentious. Could you imagine if it had been this shit instead? The sixth circle of hell, waiting for Randall. So those are the ideas, and then I kind of stopped and thankfully went with something, the thing that we all know from the movie. But it's nuts, man. Like, it's a little window, a little glance into the mindset of a guy who dreamed doing something. You know, what is it? Gregor Samsa dreamed he was ... I was a guy living in New Jersey. I had seen Slacker. I fell in love with independent film, and I was like, this is what I want to do, man. I want to tell my story. I want to make my statement. And years later, I'm still talking about that fucking statement. There was a friend of mine, Gwen Turner, was dating, I don't know if she's still dating, Tracy Chapman, who sings, "You got a fast car, I'm gonna take it anywhere, man, looking at a convenience store. Man, it's just name, just a little bit of money." I'm sure you guys know the song. I didn't have to go that far, but in any event, when she first said like, "Hey man, I started going out with Tracy Chapman," I was like, "Get out of here. How's that?" She goes, "Oh, she's great, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Let me ask you this. Does she just hate that fucking fast car song by now?" And she goes, I asked her that. One of the first questions I asked her early on. I said, "Really? What'd she say?" And she said, "No, God, I love it." She's going, "That changed my life. That fast car, like, gave me everything I wanted in life." And those are my words. And I remember writing that song and feeling thrilled. And so every time I sing it, I'm happy. It's a privilege. I'll never be tired of that song. And that's exactly how I feel about this movie. I'll never be tired of Clerks. And thankfully, there's a bunch of you out there feel the same kind of way. So with that in mind, we look toward the future. And June of 2015, we start shooting Clerks 3. Everything looking wonderful. Everything feeling good. Got the script down to a lean, mean 105 pages. And we're going to take the final journey with Dante and Randall, something that we began together 20 years ago in a theater, some of us. But for me, this journey goes even further back to an old marble notebook. And, a fat kid working at a convenience store going like, why not? Why not me? Well, let's see what happens if I try. So Clerks, even though a 23-year-old or 22, 23-year-old Kevin Smith thought it was about sex and fear, I don't, to this day, Clerks can mean many things to many people, many different interpretations of it, in terms of what it means and whatnot. But for me, Clerks will always mean the introduction, the bridge, the knock on the door to everybody, to you guys, to the audience. Clerks was my way of saying, "Hi, my name's Kevin Smith, and I would like to talk to you for the rest of my life." So it all began with Dante and Randall and Jay and Silent Bob. And so we're going to head back there, man. Clerks 3, we start next year. Everything looking wonderful. Everything looking like it's going to be a nice slide into home base as we take Dante and Randall's epic tale of normalcy, of sex and fear, if you will, and bring it to a conclusion. I want to thank all of you who have been with me from the beginning, been with us from the beginning, who've jumped on fairly recently. I mean, it's amazing how many fucking kids I meet who are like, I love Clerks. It's a story of my life. And I'm like, do people even go to convenience stores anymore? I mean, what do you mean a story of your life? People still identify with it. I love that feeling. That's tremendous. I saw online recently somebody called it the best workplace comedy ever made. I'm sure most people will be like, "Fuck you, Office Space," or a bunch of other things, but or The Office. But before all that, there was me sitting in a convenience store going, nobody's ever made a movie set in a convenience store. Like, I think it's interesting. If you make up enough fucking interesting or funny shit to go along with the setting, maybe we got something. And that was Clerks, man. And like Tracy Chapman with Fast Car, I'm gonna be singing this song my whole fucking life. You'll never shame me out of fucking Clerks, man. It's up until Harley, the greatest thing in the world that I ever did. And some would argue at this date, still, well, regardless of Harley, the greatest thing I've ever did professionally. Like, some people are like, "Fuck him," after Clerks. Fair enough. And there's a lot more entertainment choices now and places to go than there was like when I first started my career and whatnot. So I'm always thankful for the people that ever give us a shot, even if they walk away. But I dreamed a long time ago, obviously over 22 years ago, that I would be part of something. I wanted to be part of the fraternity, the sorority, whatever, of film and of cinema. Sorority of cinema sounds better. Fraternity of film, sorority of cinema. There you go. There's that fucking emo Kev Smith writing again. I'm not being braggy. I'm not fucking full of myself. So don't, pull out the long, sharp knives. But Clerks is a part of cinema history. Like it or not, man, this is the $27,000 movie that launched 1,000 ships. Like, a bunch of people going, "Holy crap, this counts. I want to do this." And has kept me working 20 years now. Never had to go back to the convenience store. never had to take a job, have been self-expressing now for 20 years. Thanks to you folks who've come along for the ride, who give a fuck about Dante and Randall, who always want to check in on a little convenience store in New Jersey and see what happened to those guys. So thank you so much for all of that. Thank you for this entire fucking journey. Thanks for, I'm just so fucking grateful. So thank you one and all listening, for taking the journey, with us all this time, for keeping the faith, even when you lost the faith and maybe coming back, or even the ones who've completely lost the faith have been like, go fuck yourself forever. Thanks for giving us the time when you did, man. But, oddly enough, it's so weird to be reading all these notes and heading toward it again. Like, 22 years ago, I was sitting there writing about Dante and Randall and what we had to do to accomplish Clerks. And now, I'm sitting around writing about Dante and Randall and what we have to do to accomplish Clerks 3. So, it's because of you folks and the good folks at Miramax, Harvey Weinstein, Mark Tusk, massive hero in this entire Clerks affair. Without him, nobody at Miramax sees the flick. He pushed us. Even when Harvey walked out, he brought us there. Bob Hawke, as mentioned before, the guy who sees the movie first, starts telling people about it, the Sundance Film Festival. It goes on and on. There's so many people to thank, but honestly, it really always comes down to you guys, to the audience. Thank you so much for taking an interest, because it's afforded me a life that Dante and Randall could only dream about. Thanks, man. And happy Clerks Day, everybody. Sorry to get so maudlin and sentimental, but 2 decades is a long fucking time. And I'm happy to report that 20 years later, the dream continues to come true on a daily basis. So thank you so much for that, man, from the quick stop in my heart. I hate to interrupt this awesome Smodco podcast, but somebody got to pay the fucking bill. Somebody got to have the balls to be like, give us money. So here we go, man. Some ads, and then we'll get back into the show.
Hey, Jay Muse here to tell you about something he just figured out like a ninja, and I didn't think I could do it because I'm not very technically inclined in such things and whatnot, and that is squarespace.com. That's right, man. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that makes it easy and fast to create your own professional website, portfolio, and online store to boot. You got a hat, you got a breakdancing video, you got some new sneakers, whatever. You got an online store at your fingertips, and that is all easy peasy, man, because I could do it. That means you can do it. That's right, man. Start a trial with no credit card required and start building your website today. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to go to squarespace.com/Smodcast. Use the offer code SMOD, that's SMOD, to get 10% off your first purchase. And to show your support for Smodcast, go Squarespace, put in the offer code SMOD, S-M-O-D. A better web starts with your website. Snooch to the nooch.
So, as I've often talked about, 2 people who shaped me, the Kevin Smith you all know, without whom I never would have gotten to Clerks probably, is Walter Flanagan and Brian Johnson. Walter's all over Clerks, man. He plays 96 different roles, and he's our Lon Chaney of the 90s. As we said on the Clerks commentary on the Clerks Laserdisc, a bunch of kids are like, what's a Laserdisc? Is old technology. Looked like a record. Played movies. Very strange. So now it is a precursor to the DVD. Kids are like, what is a DVD? It's all in the fucking clouds now, isn't it? So those cats, man, without them, I never get to Clerks. So it's only appropriate that 20 years later, those dudes are living Clerks. We've got a show now going on the AMC network, going on season 4, called Comic Book Men. Most anyone listens to this podcast fairly familiar with it. I pitched it as it's Pawn Stars in a comic book store because I'm a lazy fat ass. But the AMC folks and Brian Nichelle, our showrunner, and the boys, Brian and Walter and Ming and Mike, shaped it into something so much better. It's kind of Clerks, the reality series, man. It blends, the first movie with a bit of the second movie. Ming is definitely Elias. Brian is Randall, and that's appropriate because Randall is based on Brian Johnson. So, there's a bunch of obvious parallels between the two. It takes place in a retail shop. This time, a fun retail shop of selling comic books as opposed to slinging cigarettes and milk and stuff. But the two are very much related. Anytime I watch an episode of Comic Book Man, I'm always like, wow, man, this is really like Clerks, the reality series. Those dudes did it. That wasn't even the show I pitched. That's the show they made, and I'm so happy. I love watching it every week when it's on, usually after The Walking Dead. Well, thank God. The boys and I did a panel at the New York Comic-Con a couple weeks ago, and Friday morning, 11 a.m., man. So we didn't expect a lot of people to be there. Boom, room is fucking packed. So this is what that panel sounded like, man. And this, when you hear it, you can think about, wow, all this shit, like the TV show and him sitting up there with his buddies and whatnot. All that came from not Clerks. That certainly fucking helped, believe me. But really, it came from sitting around with his buddies and talking and shit. So I've been talking to the same motherfuckers for decades now, and it has never gotten boring. I love them all. Here now, without further ado, man, Walter, Brian, Ming, and Mike, and myself from the New York Comic-Con Comic Book Men panel. How is everybody this morning? Good morning. Thank you for being here so bright and early on a Sunday morning and whatnot, braving traffic to get here. What did I say? My Lord. I guess the New York Post was right. Welcome, everybody, on this lovely Friday morning. Thanks for being here so goddamn early and whatnot. It means the world to us. This is where we're going to sit around and talk about comic book men for a little while, man. So I'm going to, thank you. Thank you. Folks, I'm going to be honest with you because I don't know any other way to do this job. But hitting the stage this morning, I was very fucked up, and a lot of people were like, on weed? Of course, but that's not the problem. For the last 6 days, I've given up processed and added sugar. So there's no sugar in my diet whatsoever. Don't applaud it. It's a dark fucking world without sugar. I'm serious, kids. Like, I've woken up every morning and at various points throughout the day, everything's going well in life, with the exception of Tusk, and even that is pretty fucking cool. Everything's going well in life, but there have been many moments this week where I'm bereft. And it's so weird because I'm part of the first world, so I should never be bereft about anything. But I'm sitting in my house, I'm going, all is lost. What is it? And it really fucked with my body. And it turns out, sugar is a fucking drug, man. The same way, when they showed a brain graph on this documentary I watched, Fed Up. That's what made me take sugar out. Here's the key, kids. Don't watch documentaries because they'll scare you into doing stupid things. And so this one, they showed a brain, through a brain scan, and they said when a brain, does cocaine, this is the area the brain lights up. And then they showed somebody eating sugar, and they're like, when you eat sugar, this is the area the brain lights up. Same fucking area of the brain. So I'm sitting here realizing, as I'm going through withdrawals, thinking all is lost and being shitty with everybody around me, that it's a drug, man. Fucking sugar coming out of my system has changed my life in ways, not good ways, bad fucking ways. So they tell you it's important. We got to get sugar out of us and stuff. And I agree. I've been doing sugar. I've been a sugar addict for 44 years. Let me try doing it without. But as somebody who's doing it, I urge you, keep ingesting as much fucking sugar as you can. It's where all my dopamine came from. It's where my happy came from. And now it's fucking gone. But my point in telling you that is this. Sitting here, and this is no bullshit, sitting here watching that fucking clip reel, listening to you folks react to it, found my fucking happy. It really brought my dopamine levels up, man. So thank you. It's breathing rarefied air in life, my friends, when they let you do a TV show where you're like, can we have Billy D. Williams on the show? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. So as I watched the clip, I'm like, wow, man, this is season 4 is about to begin. And on that show, we've been able to show things that 20 years ago, long before I was a filmmaker and shit, those are the things I used to sit there and watch Antiques Roadshow with my father. And, every episode I'd pray, please, toys or a comic, toys or a comic. And rarely was there ever a toy or a comic. Every once in a while when one showed up, I was like, holy fuck, push my old man to the side. And I always dreamed, hey, why don't they do an all comic book toy episode and shit? So years later, when Original Media and AMC were like, we're looking to do a show, I said, hey man, why don't you do Pawn Stars in a comic book store? Because I would watch that to death, man. Just seeing a bunch of shit that I used to have and people trading it and selling it and stuff. So the good folks at Original Media and AMC and the boys of the Secret Stash themselves, they make the show on a regular basis. I show up 4 times a year, sit down for the podcasting sequence and say, what happened this week, guys? And they tell me everything. That's kind of the conceit of the show. And this is the reason I bring it all up, man. As I watch that clip, there's not a team of writers on this show, ladies and gentlemen. Now, some people will be like, we can tell, motherfucker. But there's not a team of writers. It's a bunch of people show up at a scheduled time with cameras. We don't wait around with cameras for somebody to come in and try to sell something at the stash. Like basically, if we're doing a day of transactions where people are going to try to sell stuff, we line those all up. So it's scheduled and stuff. It's not reality. It's unscripted is what we call it. Because once everything's in place, the boys are on their own, man. And every episode now for 4 seasons, and I've seen almost everything of the first half of season 4 as well, all the cuts, all the content is generated by those guys. And it just fucking blows my mind because most shows, I've been around things. Most shows have a writer's room. Most shows have people handing people things to say and whatnot. These guys generate the show all by themselves. So all the credit is due to them. I'm just the guy who shows up who's like, what happened? And then they explain it. They actually provide everything that's in that fucking show, and I love them to death. So I'm going to bring them out here, and hopefully you guys give them a lot of love. Ladies and gentlemen, the comic book men themselves, Walter Flanagan, Brian Johnson, Ming Chen, and Michael Zapsik.
Crap.
All right, folks, we're going to make it all about you. Are there microphones? Are there places to stand? Or are people just raising hands? How we do the question thing? Mics. Okay, there's a microphone there. There's a microphone there. Here we go, man.
I just want to announce I'm on cocaine and sugar right now. So I'm ready to go.
I will drink a cup of your blood right now. Okay, on which side do we want? We'll begin over here, man. Microphone master on this side. Where are you? I can't quite see. Nobody's standing there. All right, fuck it. We'll go over here, man.
Hey guys.
How are you, sir? Welcome.
Doing fantastic. Thanks for coming. Something I've been curious about, in the first season, it seemed like Walt didn't want to buy anything. People would come in and he'd give them $5. As the seasons have gone on, he's been a little more loose with paying out. So I'm curious, do people get an appearance fee when they walk into the stash with something, even if they don't sell it to you? How's the transactional thing work?
There's no appearance fee. If it's whatever money they get is if I buy the item or not.
Fair enough. Thanks.
I never dreamed the answer would be that simple. Wow. I would have asked something else.
Sleep well tonight, sir.
Over to this side. All right, we started off with a weak answer. Let's go to this side.
All right, well, first of all, Peter, Kevin, thank you so much. You've brought new hope to Batman with your Fat Man on Batman.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely love the podcast. Yesterday I got a chance to meet Kevin Conroy, and he actually said that he loves your podcast. He did. I mentioned it. He said you talk the passion you have about Batman is unbelievable.
It's so wild. He is amazing. When I was coming in, just as I arrived at the back door, I was walking in and somebody goes, Kevin, and I turned and it was Kevin Conroy.
No way.
Batman said my name outside.
Awesome.
It was tremendous. But he's here walking around as well.
Yeah.
He was wonderful on that show. That show is fun to do. I'm getting back to it next week or the week after. We've taken a little bit of a hiatus. But it's that to me is indicative of what you could and should do with a podcast. Don't talk about shit that everybody else wants to talk about. Talk about the shit that like you are passionate about, man. You could make a whole show just talking about that character of Batman easily. And really, it's all about these people who change their lives to get to that character. That's what I love about that show. If you listen to the arc of every guest's life, it's them shaping everything just so they could touch the hem of the cape. And you know, in doing so, create a life's journey. It's really, it's fun for me to sit there and listen. And you know, if you listen to that show, it's probably the one podcast where I talk the least, where I don't interrupt as much.
Yeah. Well,
No, you do.
my question is, how do you find the time?
The time to do what?
To do everything you do.
Oh,
I mean, seriously, where's the
that's
phone?
fucking very simple. Weed. It used to. It's true. And I don't advocate it for children. I started smoking at age 38 and shit, but this is the organizing principle of my day in life. I enjoyed smoking so much, but I knew when I picked it up at age 38, I knew that like instantly, as the guy who stood next to Jason Mewes for years and was like, don't do drugs, he would be like, aha! So, you know, I was like, I gotta make myself a responsible stoner. If I'm gonna be a stoner, I gotta make sure that I'm always working. I was like, that's a little rule I made for myself. As long as I'm doing something creative, I can sit there and smoke. So while I'm smoking, I'm recording a podcast, writing a script, making a movie, making a TV show, standing here doing a panel. Like, there always has to be something going on. I can't just sit there, smoke, and watch South Park, as much as I would love to. That's the little deal I made with myself. So that's since I was 38. If you look at chart my productivity of 20 years, I've been most productive in the last, from 38 to now 45. Last 7 years, I've probably been more productive than I was in the first 13 years of my career. And that's because I love smoking so much. So it means every time I go to smoke, I'm like, I better do something creative. So it makes more output and stuff. Now, some people are like, we don't like your creative output when you're high. Tusk is stupid. I disagree. I think it's fucking awesome, you know. But
great.
That's like, there was a New York Post wrote an article when Tusk came out. It was like, dear Kevin, from a Clerks fan, please stop smoking so much weed. And I tweeted back, I was just like, this is the Clerks maker saying, I'm so happy, don't worry about it, you know? Yeah. And honestly, it's like, I just point to the productivity. Like, people could say anything they want, like, oh, he's a big fat stoner. I'm like, I probably do more than you do every day. Not you, but the people who are telling me that I'm a big fat stoner and stuff. And that's because I have to stay ahead of the curve so that people don't say shit like that. So it used to be weed, but what I've discovered this week, sugar had a lot to do with it. I'm not fucking kidding, man. Like, I think it was the 1-2 punch for me of weed and sugar, where it was just like, drink a glass of juice, smoke a joint. I'm like, I could take over the world, you know? But now, without the sugar part of the equation, it's not nearly the same thing. I mean, this is crazy to say because I do enjoy smoking weed, but I enjoy sugar so much more and get so much more out of sugar. So you might watch my productivity kind of tail off for a little while. Because most days now, this week, I didn't like sit there and write or anything like that. I sat there and was just like, God damn it, I would do anything right now to eat a bowl of Lucky Charms. I would suck a dick to eat a bowl of Lucky Charms. I would suck Lucky Charms out of someone's dick. Like, and I could do it. So really, that's what it comes down to for me. That's the productivity, and why I do so much has everything to do with smoking. Because as long as I'm smoking, I got to be creating something.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, over to here.
Hi, I'm Jay. I'm from Long Island. First of all, I gotta say, I love all the podcasts you guys do.
Thank you.
Big Babylon fan, big Tell 'em Steve Dave fan.
Thank you.
Walt and Brian, congratulations on Cryptozoic Man. Kevin, I love Tusk, but to quote you from Hollywood Babylon, congratulations for failing into Clerks 3.
Thank you. It's true. It's a terrible lesson for some people because you're supposed to be punished when you quote unquote do bad or fuck up or make a mistake or do wrong. A number of things that people who are not me have told me that I did in making Tusk. But you know your own story. Other people don't get to write your story. You write your story. And because I made Tusk, it directly has everything to do with us making Clerks 3. We made Tusk. The folks who funded the movie Yoga Hosers that we're 3/4 done with, we have one more quarter to shoot in the beginning of the new year. Kim Ledford, who's a wonderful partner and become a great friend and whatnot, she brought up Clerks 3. We'd said something about Clerks, and she was like, whatever happened to that Clerks 3 thing? I thought you were going to make that. And I was like, well, wanted to. The Weinstein Company didn't want to finance it, but they said they would distribute it, which is easy. That means I just have to go out and find financing. But when I got that word back, we were in the middle of Tusk. Tusk led right to Yoga Hosers, and then I started writing Moose Jaws, which is Jaws with a moose. And then, because I want to make 3 Canadian horror movies with rubber monsters. Tusk is one, Yoga Hosers, I am buried in prosthetics, and I play the monster in that movie. And then Moose Jaws, Bob Kurtzman, who built our Tusk Walrus and who's built our villains for the Yoga Hosers as well. He's building a giant man-eating moose because it takes place at a summer camp just as the kids are arriving. And so we have to make a big enough moose that can eat a 9-year-old child. You know? So that conversation, all those movies came out of Tusk. Kim Ledford was like, well, what's going on with Clerks 3? I said, it was just sitting there. I kind of got my head up my ass to the Canadian movies right now, so I haven't thought about it. She's like, well, can I read it? And I said, sure. And I gave it to her right away. She was like, oh my God, we have to make this movie. So boom, suddenly I had the money for Clerks 3. And, you know, again, it's like, the lesson is supposed to be, he made a fucking stupid movie about a guy who turned another guy into a walrus, and now he is punished with no movies. But really, it was he made a stupid movie about a guy who turned another guy into a walrus, and somehow he's making 3 more fucking movies because of it. And that, the lesson to take from that is not like Hollywood's fucked, because none of the movie comes from money comes from there, obviously. The lesson to take from it is like just express you. You do you. Like, that's all I can do in this life. I could sit there and I could try to figure out what other people like and shit like that. I'm like, what do people like? Movies where Ben Affleck shows his dick and his wife gets kidnapped. Okay, I could do that, you know. But that's other people. There are talented people who do that, like David Fincher and stuff like that. There are talented people to make movies that satisfy 4 quadrants, as they call it. Everybody you can possibly reach in an audience. The only thing I know how to make are Kevin Smith movies. And since the beginning, it's kind of worked out for me, you know. And it's allowed me for 20 years to not ever have to go back to Quick Stop unless I'm like, we're shooting a movie here again, you know. And not like, I'm working at 6 a.m., you know, do you need coffee? So it's been this wonderful experience, but it's all predicated on doing what I do, which is not wildly popular. It's popular with some people, they're ardent about it, but it doesn't cross over ever into the mainstream and stuff. So, you know, some people are always like, when are you gonna make a fucking movie that crosses over to the mainstream? I honestly don't think I ever will. I don't have that sensibility. Anytime I try, I get close, it just doesn't feel right. Like, I'd always rather do the fucking weird thing, just because that hasn't been done yet. Like, every version of every mainstream story kind of has been done, and then you get very cool, talented people to shape new versions of stories that you're very familiar with. But I'm always kind of interested in being like, I've never seen a guy sew another guy into a walrus suit before. Few people might like to see that. And, you know, obviously not at the box office, but they'll be watching it for the rest of their lives on home video and stuff. So I kind of felt like, you know, while I was making Tusk, I talked about not wanting to make movies anymore and stuff. But I kind of decided while I was making Tusk, I was like, don't do that. Just never make a movie that you would never make. Like, only make movies that you would bother making. Like, that was Clerks. Nobody ever wanted to make Clerks and shit like that. Like, I dreamed of Clerks because I hung out with these cats, and our sense of humor and sensibility wasn't really portrayed in the mainstream media. As much as I love John Hughes movies, I didn't identify with any of those kids. They were all fucking rich. Then there was stuff like, I loved Animal House, Caddyshack, all the fucking like underdog movies and stuff, but like, I can't identify with Bluto because I would never sit there and drink a whole thing of Jack Daniels, you know? So like, where were my friends up on the screen? And for years I'd be like, how come there's nobody talking about like the shit we talk about, like pussy and Star Wars, and like people that refer to, like, talk to one another in dialogue from other movies the way we do, because we didn't really talk to each other as much as we just quoted Raising Arizona at one another. So I was like, how come where's that movie and shit? And one day it hit me. I was like, dude, nobody's ever gonna fucking make a movie about you and your friends or the shit you find funny or your sense of humor and shit. Nobody gives a fuck. If you wanna see that, you're gonna have to fucking do it yourself. And I did, and that was Clerks, and it changed my life and stuff. So with Tusk, years later, 20 years later, thank you. 20 years later, I'm sitting there, on the podcast, and I got this idea to make the Walrus movie and stuff. Had the same kind of snap, where I was like, nobody is ever going to make this stupid fucking Walrus movie, probably with good reason. If you want to see it, do it yourself. And so I was like, all right, like that's the voice I listened to 2 decades back. Let me listen to it again. And once again, it was right. Like, I got a little fucking slapped around after the opening box office and shit. But it didn't really matter one iota. I was still already into a world of all new projects, and I was working again, as opposed to like not making films at all, which would have made some people happy. But I mean, suddenly I was fucking back. So like the only lesson I could give you is like, sometimes you can fucking fail doing the stupid thing. As long as it's outside the box and original, you're gonna catch somebody's attention. And they're gonna be like, I would like to see more of that, please. So, I know like everyone in the world, if you ever wanna do shit like this, entertain, movies, TV, whatever the fuck plays, they'll always push you into doing the shit that other people have done, like what's safe, what's commercial and shit. But you be you, man. Your voice is your only fucking currency in this life. That's all you have. Who you are, what you think, that's all you got, man. So rather than like, thank you, rather than sheep it up and try to be like everybody else, you be you. And if you fucking fail, who cares? What is fucking failure? It's success training. You know what Tusk means? It means the next time I make a Walrus movie, it'll be better, or something like that.
So Kevin, my question.
But it already kind of like opened up the door to everything else. So it's worth doing, man. Like, online, a bunch of people are like, go fuck yourself. This movie's terrible. Why would you try? I saw something on my Twitter feed that was like, this movie was doomed to, and this was written by like a blogger. This movie was doomed to failure because Tusk is a movie that nobody asked for. And I'm like, yeah, but nobody really asks for any movie except for a sequel or a remake. You can't ask for something you don't know exists, So I don't know, that to me didn't feel like, I didn't feel chastised, and I didn't feel like, oh man, I fucking failed. I didn't. Like, the movie will live forever and shit. Didn't work at the box office, but that's the story of my fucking life. Happened to Mallrats as well, and people fucking love the shit out of Mallrats 20 years later. So... And I've seen cats online be like, he's always excusing his failures and shit. Not excusing him. I'm just kind of explaining my perspective. But, if you want to study my failures and pull them apart, then I urge you to use them for your benefit. Even the people that don't like me or these guys and shit. I'm always curious.
What? Sons of bitches.
Some cats don't. I'm always curious, like, why sit there and like throw bile into the world that's not going to accomplish anything? Like, if you really hate me and what I've done or these guys, what you do is you use us.
What?
Yeah. Huh? You use us as kind of like, like, fuck, if they can do it, there's no excuse for me not to do it, because fucking Kevin Smith is an idiot and his friends are whatever,
What? Idiots.
So I'm always like, use that. If you're going to be negative, use that and be like, well, shit, man, if an idiot like him could get shit done, then that means there's no excuse for me to not get my fucking shit done. Even that shit could be turned positive. Anyway, we should talk about the fucking show. My bad.
Well, before I ask you and Walt a question, those elongated speeches is what making me go to film school.
Oh, get out of here.
Future.
Where do you go? Which one?
I'm not yet, but I'm going.
Hey, slow down, fat man. Not yet.
But to Walt and you, I've fallen off the Batman collecting. Did you guys ever finish Widening Gyre Part 2?
We didn't, and every year I'm up here, I'm like, we're finishing it next year. But for sure, we are finishing Bellicosity in 2015. The show got in the way, a couple movies got in the way, life got in the way, but we're now going to finish it. It's nice, too, because it's built up a bit of an audience over the years, where I get hit at least once a day on Twitter with somebody going, when's Bellicosity coming out? So I feel like, right on, man, we could come back with a real killer finish to that story, and people will pay attention and not just be like, you made Batman piss his pants, you fat jerk, But we'll be getting to it very soon, I promise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, over to here.
First off, Walrus, yes.
Thank you.
Then the Batman 66 versus Green Hornet. You guys did a great job on that.
Thank you. All credit for that,
Ralph.
I got to give to Ralph Garman. Ralph is the guy who's forgotten more about Batman 66 than most people will ever know. That was his passion.
Reading it, I have the first 4 issues. I didn't pick up the 5th one yet. It's still waiting for me. And listening to the comic book theater that you do, my son and I, as we were driving from Pennsylvania last night, we were listening to it. and we were rolling. It was so good. It
Thank
just
you.
really brought me back
That
to my
fucking
childhood.
does it for me, man. When a guy's like me and my kid listen to your podcast, like I just think about every time my old man took me to the movies and shit. And in the beginning, it was like movies for kids and stuff. But the more we went, the more he would trust me. And like soon, I guess 1982, I was 12 years old. World According to Garp comes out. And my father takes me to see the great Robin Williams movie. If you've never seen it, see it. But in the movie at one point, somebody bites somebody else's dick off. And I looked over at my father. I was like, this ain't Star Wars.
My son took me to the Affleck flick last week, so I know what you mean. So.
That podcast he's talking about, though, Ralph and I periodically on Hollywood Babylon take the comics we've written and kind of reenact them and bring them to life. And Ralph is such a master mimic. He does a bunch of different voices. It's a really fun listen. If you haven't heard it, it's a good read-along. We do it like one of those book and record read-alongs where we do a little noise to tell you to turn the page. It's the bats like, da-na-na-na-na-na, tells you to turn the page of the comic. Anyway, what were we going to ask? I'm sorry.
My question is, just watching, I got blown away when you had you guys had the Batmobile and the Black Beauty together on the street doing the drag race. How was that? Was that like the best ever?
I mean, it was a dream come true. I can't even put into words the feeling to actually get to drive the Batmobile with Adam West as your co-pilot. I mean, I know those guys. It was just. Did they show it on that clip? Did they show you two driving?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been cool if Van Williams was in the back seat, I guess, for you guys. But I got to sit next to Adam
or Bruce
West.
Lee.
Yeah, but then I couldn't get the ride. I would have been kicked out by Van Williams.
It was fun to have that 1 second. That 1 second that I could reenact. The Bruce Lee driver's seat. I could be Kato just for a second. It was pretty cool.
You're a crappy driver, Ming. I love you anyway.
Thank you, Mike.
That's it. Thank you.
All good?
Very much.
Thank you, sir.
And I love all your podcasts. They're great, all you guys.
Thank you. Oh my God, so sweet. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Huge fan for a long time, and I was wondering, when are you going on the Jason Ellis show? They've been talking about you for weeks, wondering when you're going to come in.
Whenever they want. Where is that?
It's in California, the Sirius show.
Okay.
They've been talking about, they've been trying to get you for weeks. You haven't answered.
Okay, happily, yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know if you've ever tracked my career, but you don't ever have to ask me twice to be on television. You know,
No,
generally,
it's a radio show.
they don't even finish the question. Like, do you want to be on? I'm like, I'm already on it. So it's called the Jason Ellis Show?
Yeah, it's a radio show.
It's in Los Angeles?
Sirius. Yes.
Beautiful. I'll do it next week. I'm home and shit.
Dude, are you a booking agent?
No, I'm not. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, do you think AMC is like, let's interview talk and more comic book men talk?
You know you've got a show, right? All right, just checking.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Kevin, big fan, man.
How are you? Thank you.
What's it called? I was wondering, is Clerks 3 going to be in black and white?
A little bit of it is going to be
Really?
in black and white. Yeah, the whole opening 10 minutes is in black
great.
and white. That was it. It was awesome, man. He's like, I got one question. Any black and white in Clerks 3? Because if there's not, go fuck yourself, fat man. I saw that Walrus movie. It ain't Clerks. How are you?
Great. I'm actually going to ask a question about comic book men.
Please.
Ming, do you get paid extra for being tortured?
No, I don't. I guess I should get a little bump.
What was the question?
Do I get paid extra for being tortured?
No, he gets paid less.
The torture continues.
People continue to say to me, too, they're like, you got to be nicer to Ming. Be nice to Ming. The second I'm nice to Ming, I'm out of a job.
You get paid to make fun of me.
And is there
job.
anything less American than trying to put a man out of work? A job that he earned through knowing his famous friend.
Pay Brian extra.
That's commie talk.
And is there anything less American than holding down an Asian minority?
I might be the country's greatest patriot.
You are. You're a real American hero, Brian Johnson.
Thank you.
I can't believe Ming got the best line of the day off you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, big fans. This is a question for all of you guys. Guarantee, since you guys are on television, everyone watches you. What's the most weird thing any fans ever did or said to you guys?
Rude thing?
Just weird.
Weird. Oh, weird. You guys can start.
For me, the weirdest thing is somebody saying that everybody watches us. You've seen the ratings, right? Everybody watches The Walking Dead.
Well, you guys are still on.
Some people
so.
watch us.
I don't know if it's weird, but I've seen to have built up this large fan base of 13-year-old girls.
Yeah, it's weird.
And
he's so non-threatening.
Is that what it is? I guess that must be what it is.
One of us.
And
he's all smooth.
And I don't know if it's fun or weird, but I was like, this is what Justin Bieber feels like. It's like so soon, me and Mike are going to be racing Lamborghinis down the streets of Red Bank.
I thought the funniest thing about your new prepubescent following is for all the shit that you heap upon your wife, and she should have divorced you 10 times over by now.
Stop.
The only shit she gave him was there was a picture of a 14-year-old girl kissing Ming on the cheek at a con, and she was like, no. Enough, right?
That this might look bad.
Yeah.
So he didn't show her the picture of her 14-year-old twin sister kissing him on the other cheek. So that was a little in poor taste.
I never thought of you ever, and all the time I've known you, particularly in the last few years, as the Asian Justin Bieber. But now... weirdest thing I think anyone's ever said to me, and people are fairly comfortable coming up to me and being very frank and whatnot, but honestly, the weirdest thing still goes back to the first time anyone came up to me and commented on anything that I did in this business. It was a screening of Clerks at the IFFM at the Angelica right here downtown. And it was a screening that we were supposed to pack with as many potential investors or potential exhibitors or distributors for the movie as possible. It's a screening for the flick when it had nobody. Miramax wasn't attached. So the IFFM is this thing. It was a week-long event. It was not a festival. It was a marketplace. And you rent a screening room, and you put your movie in there, and you try to get as many people to come to it as possible. Ours was on the last day on a Sunday, October 3rd. And it was at 11 a.m. in the morning. And nobody is awake on Sunday at 11 a.m. and stuff, so the screening was empty, except for the people that came with us, Jeff Anderson, Brian O'Halloran, Marilyn, Lisa was there. Jason didn't even go. I was like, we're going to show the movie we made. He's like, what movie? And I was like... So after the screening, like I remember I walked in and that screening was supposed to change my life. Like, you know, that was the screening where we were going to sell the movie, somebody would pick it up, and all this work we'd been doing would be for something and stuff. Nobody was fucking there. So I walked into the screening and like had for the first time in my life, like that sinking feeling of like, oh my God, I made a huge fucking mistake. And I was watching the movie, I was like, why does everybody keep fucking cursing so much? And so at the end of the flick, about 15 minutes into the flick, I got comfortable with it again. I was like, you know what, man? Like, you wanted to make a movie and made a movie and shit, and this is just practice and fucking, you know, if it doesn't work out, make sure you pay off your debts, because I put it on a credit card. I said, but don't deny yourself a chance to do this again, because you liked who you were so much when you were doing this. So don't forget that feeling. Yes, nobody's here in the theater, but don't forget that you liked who you were when you did that. So after the screening, you know, I'm feeling okay, even though nobody was there and shit. And we talked to the few people in the room who actually watched the movie who weren't with us. Scott Mosier got to talk to a guy named Bob Hawke, who would go on to change our lives. He started telling people about Clerks. He's how we got into Sundance. He was like our fairy godfather. I got to talk to a lady who came up to me. She was about 22. And the movie's done. I'm out in the hallway. First time anyone's ever reacted to something I've done who's not a friend or family member. And she goes, "Did you make that?" I said, "I did." And she goes, "Yeah. Do you know fucking people like that?" I was standing around them, and I was like, "No, I just made that part up." And she goes, "Well, Jersey people suck." And I go, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, I got a theory." She goes, "All the Nazis who were ever killed have been reincarnated and they populate New Jersey." So I said, "Right on." I didn't know how to process that. I was like, so is that thumbs up or thumbs down? I'm not sure. And then after that, she waited a beat. I didn't know what to say. I was just going, "Oh, And then she goes, well, I guess I'll give you my headshot. And she gave me her headshot. She was an actress. And I was like, you want to be in this shit? She's like, I guess, why not? But that was, I think that's the weirdest reaction I ever had from somebody.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Over yon way.
Hi, how's it going, guys? My name's Ryan. I'm from Long Island, and I just want to say this is my Comic-Con moment. Being able to talk to you guys. Kevin, I've been following your movies since I was a kid.
Oh my God, you're going to make me cry. This is awesome. He came up to the mic, he's like, this is my Comic-Con moment.
It is. I go to film school. I'm a senior in film school.
Yes.
I put you as one of the main reasons why I decided to become a filmmaker.
Okay.
Being able to see you has made me want to be a filmmaker.
He's going to the bathroom, folks.
I want to share your Comic-Con moment with you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. I also, now that you're right next to me, I want to say...
Let's do it looking in each other's eyes.
Right into each other's eyes. I love Tusk. I saw it Thursday night.
This is, folks, I appreciate this, but I feel good about Tusk. You don't all have to be like,
I love Tusk.
It's okay, don't kill yourself.
I've never had a movie where I can, in one scene, be disturbed, and then the next scene, cry laughing.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you.
for that was amazing.
Thank you.
You know, I loved it. I love all your movies. Jersey Girl, not so much, but I don't blame you. George Carlin was great in it, you know.
You were doing so well.
Hey, if I have you here, I want to say, I don't know if I'm ever going to have this moment again.
That's true. Tell me everything. You're like, another thing? You're a little overweight, Kev.
Hey, so am I. No, but just being able to meet you is just one of the greatest moments, of my life. I want to be a filmmaker just like you.
Oh, right.
I'm in film school.
Please be a more successful filmmaker than me.
Hey, I want to tell you something. A lot of people I go to school with, we all go into our cars in the middle, after class. We'll smoke weed, and we'll listen to your podcast.
Do you really?
We listen to your podcast.
I can't believe that's happening everywhere in the United States.
It's everywhere.
I think you guys might be the only high schoolers fucking listening to podcasts.
That's what my college is. We just smoke weed.
Oh, it's college. I assumed you were in high school. My bad.
I'm 21.
What a dick I am. That means the world to me. Thank you so much. Do you have a question, though?
I have a question for all you guys.
Jesus.
It's mostly for you.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I want to change my answer to that guy's question. That's the weirdest thing I've seen since I've been doing this. Next on Maury.
All right. My question is for all you guys. I'm a big fan of you guys too, all right?
Oh, thank you.
I love you guys too.
I forgot I was up here.
No, I love you guys too. But my question is, I know that Moose Jaws, he's about to make soon. I was wondering, I know it's going to be in a camp. Will they be the camp counselors?
These guys?
Yeah, they would be the best camp counselors. I think I'll speak for all of us when they say that seeing the moose walk out with Brian Johnson's beard in his mouth would probably be the best thing in the movie.
I'm not done writing the script, but that scene is now in it.
Yes!
SAG card, here I come.
It is, and this is why I like coming to shit like this. That is an excellent fucking idea. Like, there's so many fucking parts to fill. Why not these fucking guys, man? So yes, when we go to camp with Moose Jaws, expect to see all 4 comic book men there as well.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Excellent meeting you. Excellent shirt, too.
Hold on, do I get to have sex? In the movie?
Not with me, you don't.
In the movie, I'm like, why don't you ask your wife? I have no idea. In the movie, no, you're not one of those characters.
How could he not tag that up with, I'm Ryan, and that was my Comic-Con moment?
He just put his arms up. Yeah. That was good enough. Good. He was like fucking Judd Nelson at the end of the Breakfast Club, man. Fist in the air. Okay, we're over to this side. How are you?
I'm great. Mike from Exit 123.
Did you just cut Waldo?
Yeah, I paid him $10 because...
Is that a thing? Can you do that in line?
Yeah, here you go, man.
Because what, you really gave him $10?
Hold on.
Because I could take 50.
You could have made 50 off that guy.
I know, from somebody in the back. Who wants to go ahead of him? Give me $100.
I promised my new fiance that I'd ask you this. but we just recently got engaged. We're huge fans of yours. I started a podcast because of you with my friends. Never got closer
What's
to
the
them.
podcast called?
The Everycast. Talk about everything.
Nice.
And I'm going to go to film school at Rutgers because of you. And she saw how much you mean to me, so I got her to agree on one thing. So we wanted to ask you, for our wedding in 2016, would you marry us?
Where is it?
It's going to be in Sayreville. It's
in Sayreville, New Jersey.
Yeah.
On what day?
May 14, 2016.
May 14th. Well, that's far enough away. Is it possible to Skype into the wedding? If you want like me on a computer going, you guys are fucking married, I could do that in a heartbeat. Actually, you know what though? To be honest, I am going to be on the East Coast, I believe in May. So it is distinctly fucking. Are you getting married in a church?
We were, but we were going to...
They're not going to let me go in, I'll tell you that.
I know.
They'll be like, no, there's
we
like four fucking pictures on the wall of people like keep out, and the dogma guy is one of them.
We were going to have it at the venue at the Palace in Somerset, and they're allowing us to have the main room if you would do it.
Look, I'm game, man. I'm happy to marry you. I mean, not marry you myself. Over here on the side, there'll be Megan will be standing over here. She'll take your info so you can we could stay in contact, and I could be there for prima nocta. If I marry your wife, I get to
go for it.
What I was gonna say is I get to watch. I'm a huge watcher.
That's fine too.
And wedding night sex would be amazing to lay under a glass table and jerk off looking at it.
How many times can I change my answer?
Did you have a question beyond that?
No, I just really wanted to ask. I woke up at 2:30
Perfect. Come
in the
over
morning.
here, Megan, with this gentleman standing, and Megan will find you. She'll take your info for you.
I'm supposed to follow those two.
You could do it. Don't worry about it.
I swear to God, I have a comic book man question. But first, Kevin, Clerks and Chasing Amy changed my life.
Thank you.
Started becoming a filmmaker because of it. It's because of Clerks and Chasing Amy. I ended up in a basement, handcuffed, with a camera pointed in my face. That sounds really bad out of context, but...
Were you in your underwear?
No. Fully clothed, I promise. I'm in high school. I actually ditched school today for this.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you, 12?
I'm 16.
Close enough.
Yeah.
I really love how many people are inspired to go to film school by a film school dropout.
It's true. What I think is,
right now?
when we were kids, man, when you would like cut school or something, it was to go smoke in the woods, to go to somebody's house because their parents weren't there, and you can maybe drink, and you're like, I'm cutting school and going to a Comic-Con. Like that does my heart good. In the 21st century, that's why kids cut school. That's okay with me.
So I'd just like to thank you for that, and I swear, comic book men panel, comic book men question. Are there any books that you guys are reading right now besides The Accelerators?
Mom, I'm looking right at you. Tom Mum, the editor for The Accelerators. And he's also our sound guy on Comic Book Man. And I haven't even finished Accelerators. Sorry. Tom, sorry. No, I did. I'm kidding.
That's what The Accelerators is?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I actually, the book that I read this week that was... Oh my God, I'm going to get lambasted for this, but that was the surprise of the week for me.
Say it,
was
Mike.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Who knew? And this isn't like Melissa Joan Hart's Sabrina. This is an actual kick-ass Sabrina. So I recommend that. So go ahead, Ming.
One of my, I'm only reading The Accelerators, so Accelerators and Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. It's amazing. I don't know why I've latched onto it. They did a Hurricane Sandy issue a couple months ago, and it was amazing. And I believe the third trade just came out. It's called L.A. Woman, and it's amazing. So that's what I'm reading right now.
I actually did read a book. I have an answer for this. Joe Hill's The Race. No.
What does it tell them, not me?
It's a collected edition of The Wraith by Joe Hill, Stephen King's son.
Yeah.
One more.
IDW
good.
put it out. It's good.
IDW.
Clap for it, damn it. There you go. I like that.
Yeah, how the fuck does Sabrina get more claps than Joe Hill's son? I mean, Stephen King's son.
Now, I've been reading the relaunch of the new Moon Knight. I think it's really good. Batman by Scott Snyder, really kicks ass. And Deadpool.
Also,
Can I change my answer to one of Walt's? I got no applause.
One last thing.
You could have
Ming,
said the
let's go
Walking Dead.
O's.
What's that?
Orioles. Let's go O's.
Yes. Let's go Orioles. This is the Orioles in Chinese right here. Let's go Orioles.
You fuck, we had the room, man.
I know, I just lost him.
Welcome to my world.
They are telling me to wrap it up, so we gotta grab one more question, man. Unfortunately. All right, well,
Waldo,
maybe
how
we'll
much for
do
this
two
question?
lightning fast. We do Waldo and the lady right behind Waldo. Go, Waldo.
All right. Well, I actually have a comic question for everyone. I want to know if there's any comic book character that you really love that you don't think gets enough credit, respect, and needs more exposure.
The Question. That was my favorite, and still is one of my favorite comic book characters. I love that character. I think that character could be a movie, be a TV show. They could do so much with The Question. He had a great run under Denny O'Neil and Dennis Cowan at one point, But I love that character. That's my favorite. I think that's an unsung character they could do tons with. Go ahead.
I gotta go with Hawkeye again. Every time they show the freaking Avengers, they leave him off, and he's part of the team.
Dude back there goes, "'Cause he sucks."
There's a reason he made the Avengers, and it's not because he sucks. It's because he's awesome.
With you as his cheerleader, no wonder he's getting bad press. Oh my God!
Stop leaving him off everything.
All right, great.
Thank you very much.
I think that Plastic Man's due for a comeback. I mean, really, come on, Plastic Man, for Christ's sakes.
My answer would have been Sabrina the Teenage Witch up until a minute ago. But I guess I don't really have an answer because I don't think about such things.
I'm going to go with my all-time favorite character of all comic books, Deadshot, Floyd Lawton.
Yeah. Right
Thank
on.
you.
All right, last one. Here you go. Make it good, man. Make it real good.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Alex. So I just want to say, Kevin, I do have a comic book question. Okay. But Kevin, thank you so much for all of your inspiring words. Just a month ago, I was really failing, and I was on the brink of suicide and depression, and I work at a bar.
You gave up sugar too.
Right? No. Well, I am on a diet, but anyway, no. So, but I work at a bar, and I listened to the Nerdist podcast that you were on. That was part 3, and everything that you were saying really inspired me. And that night when I got off work, I went to an open mic and I did my stand-up, and I failed.
Get the fuck out of here! How did it go?
I failed, and it felt great. And it felt great, and it was the first time. Thank you so much. Thanks. And then I went home that night, got super high, and wrote a sketch that I'm currently in the process of doing. So thank you so much for being on that podcast and putting it out on that day. That was
and let me correct you. There's no such fucking thing as failure in that instance. You know, failure to save a life, that's failure. But failure at a comedy club, no such thing, because failure would have been you sitting at home going, man, I wish I'd gone and done that comedy club thing. The fact that you took the fucking step, nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you that they'll tell you this. They'll tell you the journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with a single step, but they'd never tell you that single step is the hardest thing you'll ever do in your entire life if you just want to get started, because there's so much no out there. There's so much antipathy. There's so many people ready to tell you, you're fucking stupid for even trying.
Yeah.
But don't listen to that shit. You did the smart thing where you were like, you know what, man? I'm going to do it because maybe it's going to be the first time. Maybe it won't be the best time, but it will be the first of many and shit.
Yeah.
Take that fucking single step, kids. That's the tough step. Get closer to that thing you want to try like she did. And even if it doesn't fucking pan out, figure out how to do it and do it again. You've already fucking won. You're already over 95% of the people in the world simply by taking the step forward. Most people won't. Most people won't do it. They're either too scared, disinterested, don't know how to get started. Take that first fucking step and you're already winning the game. I promise you. It's not fucking nice talk to say say at a comic book show. It's fucking true. It's absolutely true. Immobility, nothing. The moment you take a step towards something, you're that much closer to it. I know it seems like a very simple, like fucking hang in there like a cat poster.
Yeah.
But sometimes that shit is very, very true.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for being here this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Comic Book Men returns on Sunday night. If you want to, I'm here at the con tomorrow at a Lego panel because they put me in the Lego Batman 3 game, so I'm going to be there. And on Saturday night, tomorrow night, if you got nothing to do, I'm going to be at the Hammerstein Ballroom doing Q&A, so come over there, man. Thanks for coming out. Give it up for the Comic Book Men. Don't forget Comic Book Men, Sunday nights, 12 a.m. after The Walking and The Talking Dead. When the dead are done walking and talking, man, that's when you see 4 middle-aged dead men sitting behind a counter vending. So the vending dead, if you will. That's all we got for this week, folks. Happy Clerks Day. For Smodcast, I'm Kevin Smith. Have a week.
This has been a production of Smodco Internet Radio. Sir, only at smodcast.com.
Hello, everybody. Jason Mewes here to tell you about one of my awesomest, best things. Each month, I open up this box, and bada bing, bada boom, I got 6 to 8 items, man, that are licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique, one-of-a-kind items, epic geek and gamer stuff, man. Hey, this is the business, man. Do not miss out, because I love every month. It's like, it's like one of my buddies is just surprising me with something that they know that I love, that they love, and they just give it to me each month. Boom, I open the box, man. Make sure you head to lootcrate.com/Smodcast, SMODCAST, and enter the code SMODCAST, SMODCAST, to save 10% on any new subscription. That's right, 10% off any new subscription. For less than $20 a month, you will get these 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear and apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. T-shirts and all sorts of awesomeness. It is awesome. I love it, man. But you have to do this until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that.